Can you go to your overview, please? You are mentioning you have 100,000 customers and 10% growth.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's right.
Can you go up? No, in the Word document, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has per year for the next
Yes.
5 years.
Uh-huh. So
So
it would translate to 161,000 customers.
okay, thank you. How many Experience Cloud sites are you going to have?
I'm going to have a single one.
How do you differentiate between the customers and the contractors, secondary customers and contractors?
I'm not assuming that the contractor would be using T-Mobile app.
Sorry?
I'm not assuming that the contractor would be using a mobile app. There has not been any single requirement that the contractor would be working with the system through the mobile.
Okay, thank you. Risk, can you go to your risk, please? And then in the project, in the Word document to the last part, the governance. So sales management, point number 4, says that you need to release the complete solution for 4 regions. And what are you suggesting is that you release first 2 regions, or I think it's Canada, USA, and then you release the other remaining regions that are linked to Canada.
Yes.
How
That's
right. How your proposal meets customers' requirement?
Well, it doesn't mean it in a way that they might like or they require, but from the project perspective and the experience, then going phase would make the project actually achievable. As we have only 4 months and quite a lot of functionalities to be delivered, so there is a whole customer portal, there is a whole set of integrations. So making it phased will make sure that we have a shot to deliver the first region or first set of region in USA in time. So this is a proposition that I would make to the customer, and I would try to make them understand why this is a better approach.
Let's assume that the customer sticks to what they want. They hire you.
Okay.
Have sales management. I want to go live for 4 regions, for all the regions in 4 months.
Okay. All right. So if this would be a requirement, then I would need to make sure that my team and their teams can deliver in time. So we will need to make sure that our capacity within the team is good enough to deliver. Actually, in 4 months, we will need to make sure that all of the dependencies are deliverable as well. So anything that is coming from their teams that are currently running with great autonomy is delivered in time, and they will not have any ability to glitch out of that high-level project plan that we will put together before kicking off the project. So yes, it's possible with the correct team and correct deliverables, but it's increasing the risk of not going live at all quite a bit, in my opinion.
How is going to be your release strategy if you want the sales management wants to go live in 4 months for all the regions?
Well, if I need to go live in 4 regions, that would mean that at least 2 weeks before that, I need to do my UATs. So like, let's say, start 2 weeks, finish them 1 week before go live to be able to actually fix something. So even from these numbers, you would know that this approach will be really difficult to deliver, as giving them 1 week to do end-to-end testing is probably not enough. So what I would need to do is that I will release after each sprint. So let's assume I will have 3.5 months worth of sprints. So that would be 3, 6, 7 sprints. So after each sprint, using my autonomous deployment process, I will deploy up to UAT, ask all of the business users to test the functionalities that are available. They will need to understand that they will not be able to test end to end. They will be testing fractions of the functionalities to make sure that we are not introducing any big errors soon in the process. Then we will have a bigger UATs after the checkpoints with the integration teams and ERP and monitoring systems teams to do bigger in-depth testing. I would plan that after third and sixth sprints to have some leeway, and then big UAT in the 2 weeks before going live, with followed up with the training and the bug fixing if there would be any.
Since sales management team, which stream do you prioritize to go live? Which business processes set will you prioritize to go live first?
Well, as they require the complete solution, I don't think I can prioritize anything. But in terms of how I would start my works, then I would start working primarily on anything I am depending on other sources. So I will be starting with the integrations, making sure that all of the other teams are aware of what they need to deliver, of what they need to do, and in what timelines that will be critical for our success. So that means the integration teams, the ERP teams, the monitoring systems teams. I will also need to get my Experience Cloud community up and running. Luckily, it's not too complex, so I will be able to have it done within first sprint and then submit it for the mobile publisher process so that I have enough time and maybe ability to go again if that would not work for the first time.
Okay, let's assume that sales management wants to go live in 4 months, but service support is more flexible and wants to go live in 6 months. How do you handle this? What is your recommendation and your solution here?
Well, I'm assuming that the sales. Okay, so if we would add this one, let me check the processes. So the sales process would end. Sales process would end. Sales and designs. Okay, and then contract. So is the contract and installation part of the sales process?
Yeah,
Probably
contracting.
not.
Let's assume
Okay.
until contracting.
So half of it. Okay. In this scenario, what I need to do, I need to have an integration with ERP. I need to have my canvas to the design system. I need to have, let me check my landscape. I need to have ESB running with the ERP. I need to have my AD and Okta. I need to have my website. I need my customers. So I need my mobile publisher and Experience Cloud design tool. And I also need to have, well, maybe I can live some time without the file. So I might not need the SharePoint Online. Probably. Let's make the assumption I don't need to have this part of the integrations, and I don't need the data warehouse integration because I'm not going to be loading data off the platform. So that would mean that if I can go live only with sales in 4 months, then my timeline would not be that crazy. I would need to do integration with the ERP fully. I will need to I will need to make the mobile publisher and the Experience Cloud available to my users, as they should be able to work on the estimates. And then I'll stop whenever the contract is generated. So that would mean that whenever I generate the work order in Salesforce, then I would not be able to follow up the processes in Salesforce, and I would need to somehow send that information to the existing system. So whichever system would be currently used by service, I would need to send them the information about all of these objects, right? So that they can do the support. So I think that I would not like this requirement because it will maybe lower the complexities of what I need to do with a new system, but it will add a lot of new complexities because I would need to do a whole set of integrations to the systems that I'm going to sunset, which would be thrown away afterwards the full process is implemented in Salesforce. So although it might be possible to do that, I would surely try to make customer understand that this is not a correct approach.
Why do you need the service objects when you are releasing only sales?
No, I'm not saying I need service. Well, the service object is basically case, right?
And
Because,
maintenance and
well,
repair and maintenance, right?
well, the work order, right? And then in the case, I might not need the assets, but what I need to do is then to integrate the estimates, the locations, customers, orders, with opportunity line items to the system that they are using. And those are the integrations I would then just throw away.
Why do you need the estimates?
Because for the service, okay, I might not need the estimates. That's a good point. Okay.
Okay.
But I need the location, customer, and the orders.
Okay. So it's more feasible, right? To have
well, it's still investment of couple sprints that would be thrown away. So if you are willing to pay for that, then yes, it would be probably possible.
Okay. So it's more feasible, right? To integrate, to do sales first and then service or the installations, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So into the environments, let's assume, can you go to the environments?
Yes.
So let's assume that you have released already sales. And then it go live. And then you are developing, you are enhancing or improving sales, but then so in parallel, you are developing a service or installations. How are you going to release these changes into the different environments?
So as I said during the presentation, there will be multiple releases. So I will have release for enhancements, I will have release for service, and then that's how I will then release to each of the environments.
Will be these releases according to your Scrum Master methodology or sprint structure?
Yes, because of how quickly we need to go, I would like to deploy to UAT after each sprint.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarification. Can you go to the system landscape, please? How does the system specialist logins into the design tool within Salesforce from OTCA, from your identity provider?
If I'm not wrong, then I can put together the sign request of Canvas together with the SAML flow. So once I would initiate that that Canvas app from my estimate object, it will be able to utilize the setup single sign-on.
Okay. Which mobile application are you using for your system specialist?
It's going to be Salesforce one. Yes, it's missing on my landscape. Sorry about that.
All good. You mentioned that you are going to use ESB for data transformation, data protocol transformation, and orchestration. On these 3 points, can you justify using ESB instead of ETL?
Excuse me?
Yeah, so you are using ESB because of data transformation, protocol transformation, and orchestration. My question is, based on these 3 points you justify, why aren't you using ETL instead of ESB? Hello? Are you there? Bata? You're mute? Hello? I don't hear you. I don't hear you. Hello? No? I don't hear you. You hear me? Zach? Okay. I don't hear you. Are you mute? You're muted. I really don't hear you. No. I don't hear you.
What did it help?
Yeah, now.
I switched to my laptop's microphone. I don't know what happened. Sorry
All
about
good.
it.
All good, all good.
So
All good.
you were suggesting that I can do all those free in the ETL instead.
Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, the ESB is more suitable for quick operations that are requiring the orchestration. So, for example, when I'm sending the information about the order, I need to send the customer as well. It needs to go first if it's not synchronized, and then the ESB also needs to send the data to the monitoring systems to create the links and all of that. To my knowledge, I would not use ETL for that, as the ETL is more suitable for large data volume transactions and much more rows to be done. So how I'm using ETL is to use it for the batch loads and the nightly processing of the data, if that is required.
Okay. Thank you. Which telephony system are you using? How do you connect to your telephony system?
I'm going to use the service Cloud Voice through the AWS. And again, yeah, it's missing on my landscape. It seems that as I was going, it was hard afternoon for me, like in ability to concentrate. So sorry about that.
All good, all good, all good. Fine. Can you go to your ERD?
Uh-huh.
So, how does the customer access financial data, their own financial data?
I'm not sure that they need to access them. Let me quickly check. They can only edit the install system data. I'm not aware of the requirement that they should be accessing the financial data.
Okay. You're using estimates for your sales pipeline or your sales. Can you find other alternative rather than the estimates?
Right. I've been considering to be using opportunities for that and quotes, as that would be nice, and out of the box, but then I would need to give the partner license to all of my customers, which is 700,000 of them. And I don't think that that's worth it. So that's why I went with the custom object.
You're creating the order out of the estimate, right? Based on estimate.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're creating the order line item. How do you create the order line items from the estimate?
So I'm only creating the order from the estimate, and then I'm going to use the standard adding of the order line items on the platform. So I don't know at this point which devices would be required. So I'm only creating the order based on the estimate through the quick action.
So if you don't know the devices, the amount of devices, how are you closing? How do you pricing the customer?
Well, again, it's probably part of the estimate. That's a good point that I might be missing the line items. That's a good point. I never thought about it earlier. So in my head, the estimate was just negotiation with the customer, and then only creating the line items later on. But let's assume that you would actually put together a list of the devices that needs to be gathered through the estimation process. Then I would add additional custom object estimate line item that would be linked to the estimate through the lookup, and that's where I would link it to the then I would link it to the product directly, most likely. Guess. Oh, let me think about it. It would be too complex.
Sure.
Oh, I guess that to simplify all of that, I can be using order since the beginning, not having the estimate object, but just the order. Order would be then connected to the lead in the same way, and then I will be able to use the other standard procedures that I have thought of for the orders. And then I would just have the longer path on the order.
So you're creating an order. How do you handle the approval process?
Well, in the same way, right? Can you be more specific with your
Yeah,
question?
for example, you're sending approval process to the manager, and I tell you, manager says no, this is not good enough. You're applying too much discount. You changing the order, right? And then what are you doing? You're sending the order again, or you create a new order?
Yeah, it would just be like okay. That's a very good point. So I need a place where I negotiate. I don't have the ability to use opportunity and quotes because of the licensing discrepancies. I'm not going to the PC with that. So the only other option would be, yeah, to stick to the estimate and add the object with the estimation items. But then I would need to somehow, well, I don't have any requirements based on the prices and price books. So let's assume that there is single price book with the single prices. And then I will be able to link each of the items to the product directly. And then through the record trigger flow on the custom object that represents estimate line items to get the price from the price book entry, so that there is some price that they would be starting with. Or maybe an assumption that I don't need to have I need to have a price if I'm doing the estimation. So I will need to get the prices, and I probably want to get them from the price book. So yeah, I would like to change my solution if possible, to have a custom object that would represent estimate line items linked to the estimate and linked to the product with the record trigger flow logic on the create or change of the product to load the actual price from the price book entry from the price book attached to that. I guess I would be able to support even multiple price book, one per Canada, one per US, because I will have address on my account. So based on that, I would be able to load the correct price.
How many price books entries per product are you going to create?
All right, so I would assume that I need two price books, one for US and one for Canada. And I'm also assuming that there will be a maximum of 50 different products. So I will have 50 products. Then I will have 100 PBE records.
Oh, okay. So your solution, your final solution is estimate with estimate line items.
That's right, yes.
Okay. Good. Then we can go to the processes, please.
Which one?
First sales.
Okay. So
Okay. Okay, you are using omnichannel to route inbound calls, correct? Okay.
that's right. Yes.
Okay. Point number 5. How do you collaborate?
I'm going to collaborate via chatter on the estimate object.
Okay, thank you. Back to the estimates. So you mentioned that in the I create one estimate with line items, and then you send it to the manager for the approval. And if the manager doesn't approve, what are you going to do? Create a new estimate or use the same estimate?
If they don't approve, then I'll go back to my customer. I collaborate again with them on the same estimate, and then I change the values. And I said that I will set the history field tracking to see the history of the negotiation for up to 18 months.
Okay, thank you. Point number 1, I identified here. You are using web to lead. The point number 1 in sales, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. Web to lead. Yeah, correct. How do you create leads when Salesforce goes into maintenance? This 3 times per year.
Right. So there is a queue that can hold up to 50,000 leads or cases. It's shared between web to lead and web to case. And it works like a queue. So whenever the Salesforce is down, it will gather your data coming in. And then once the Salesforce is up, it will start pushing them in 500 per day.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Point number 8, you mentioned in the, you are welcoming customers, right? I think you mentioned that when you were explaining.
What exactly?
Yeah, you are welcoming with an email the customers, right?
That will be a little bit higher.
Okay.
It's here.
Okay.
Task, visit. Where is it? Task, customer, documents, access to customer. It needs to be here.
Yeah, there. I think email template.
Email, yes.
How do you differentiate the languages?
I would have a pick list on the account object. Well, on the lead first, and then on the account, it will be linked through the mapping of the lead fields. And I would have a pick list with a preferred language, which would be English or French.
Okay, thank you. You are at this point, you are taking a video or a picture. Where do you store this picture or video?
Okay, as I tried to describe, I would store it in Salesforce until the estimate is still going on. So if it's live record, I would store it in the system. Whenever the estimate would be closed and the order and contract would be created, then I would have a logic in ETL that would load such files, physically transfer them to the SharePoint online, and then link them back through the external content version from where they have been taken.
Let's assume that we have a file of 80 megs, which is below your limit. How do you migrate this 80 meg file into SharePoint via ETL?
Right. So when you query the content version object from API, then instead of the raw data in the content version, you get the URL that you need to then call. If you call it, you get the raw data, and you will be able to download any size of it.
No, but how do you migrate this file from Salesforce into the SharePoint via the ETL?
That's what I'm saying. Right. So the ETL would understand that the estimation is there that has been closed, right? Then it will load any content versions that are linked to it through the content document link.
Yes.
When you are asking for the content version through API, instead of the raw data, you get the link, you get the URL to download it. So the ETL would gather all of these URLs, then download the documents from those URLs and send them to the SharePoint Online through their APIs that can handle the size.
How does the ETL download these files from the URLs?
Well, no, like you do a web call or a call out from your ETL to the specified URL, and it will give you the file, right? Or maybe I'm not understanding the question. Can you be more
So you have a
specific?
URL to download, right?
Mhm.
You get what I understood you have a URL to download, right? And then I assume you need to click, or what do you have to do in this URL to download? How
You
does
don't
the
have to. It's the endpoint. You just click on it, or well, if I would be using my browser, you click on that URL and it starts the download immediately. So when you do that from the automatic system, then you call it as a web service, right? You do the call out as you would be on the web service, even though it's it's the URL, and then as a response, there would be the raw data of the file.
So you sponsor a web service, custom web service?
No, it's how Salesforce is distributing data through API.
Okay, thank you. Then support. Number one.
Contracting installation?
Yeah. Sorry, contracting and installation. Is this the next one, right?
Mhm.
Can you explain what is this validation rule?
Yes, so the data of the contractors cannot be modified in any way and created in Salesforce. So the users still be able to see them. So that's why I have the validation rule to make sure that no one can update those records in Salesforce except the ERP and the integration.
Okay, thank you. Point number 3, this says that the contractor reviews the document, collaborates, and then repeats the customer approval process. Yeah,
Yes.
How do you, can you guide me through this from a
So this
static?
is done by the specialist, right? So it's the internal user. So my understanding is that the first time the contractor sees the estimates, they can say, hey, this is not possible. I need a different set of devices, for example, like more of them. And that's what they would negotiate between themselves. And then the specialist would change the status of the estimate to get the approval again.
Okay, will you create a new record here for the estimate?
I would not.
Okay.
No, this is where I would be tracking the changes to the relevant fields.
Okay. Thank you. Point number 7. How do you authenticate against this SMS gateway?
Right, so I have a SMS gateway as my organization, so I will link it through I'm not assuming that there would be a package for it that I would be able to install, so I would go through my ESP, and I would hope that one of the OAuth flow would be enabled, so for me to authenticate against it.
How does this SMS gateway handle concurrent SMS sending at the same time from different customers on? Does this
So
SMS
for the gateway, it would be still the same system, right? So I would be sending to their APIs, I would be sending multiple requests because I'm not going to be bulkifying that. So I'm expecting them to be able to process the SMSs. I can expect that there might be a queue and a slight delay if there would be a lot of them to be sent at the same time. But I'm not assuming that that would be happening too often for my solution, as this SMS confirmation is there only when the order arrives to the customer. So I'm assuming that this would be happening a couple times a day.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the design, sorry for jumping up.
No worries.
But I need to. You are designing in the desktop, right? How do you store these 100 MEFs? How do you link these 100 MEF plans to the correct customer and location?
Right, as I said, when I'm opening the okay, let's go back to landscape. When I'm opening the Canvas app, I'm going to send the customer and the location Salesforce IDs to the design tool. And then I would expect that the design tool either would already do or we need to customize it to use these as the identifiers of the files that it's creating. And then within the files, I will be able to read it within my ETL process that will be processing the files, and it will allow me to create proper data structure and send them to the correct data in Salesforce.
Which identifiers are you using?
So I'm sending Salesforce because this is just the Salesforce and design tool. So I'm sending the Salesforce ID of the customer and Salesforce ID of the estimate.
These are the identifiers to store the data, right? To store the file, sorry.
The document.
The documents. Okay. Let's assume you are connecting this design tool in UAT or staging, and we are refreshing UAT. How these new identifiers, how these Salesforce identifiers are connected to the correct documents?
Right. So if I would be refreshing my UAT, that would mean that I lose all of the data anyway. So I have two options. The first one that I would take is that once I purge my UAT by refresh, then I would purge my design tool test environment that would be linked to that and start from the scratch.
Okay.
The other option that I would not take is that I can back up all of my UAT data, then push them in, then get the new IDs, link them to the old IDs, and then change the IDs in the design tool. I don't think that that would be necessary for the UAT.
You're connecting files to your SharePoint with files connect to Salesforce. How does for example, this when you are going to the estimate, you have the PDF, or in the location, I think you have the plan or the design. How do you link, or how do you see from the project or the estimate the correct plan with Files Connect?
Right. So how that works is that, let's go back to the ERT. So when you are creating the content version, you select the source. Even if it's internal, you go with E. with I. If it's external, you go with E, and then if it's E, then you add the URL that it should be sourced from to the file. And then as the SharePoint Online would be allowed as the files connect, then putting the URL there, just a second.
Yeah.
Would mean that you are capable of seeing that document that is stored externally in your files related list, and when clicking on the file, it will be open in the destination.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. In the point number 8, in the support, in the installation, you are using which identifier are you using for the
as the asset is not yet existing, and I'm expecting that the monitoring system would send me the information about the asset to be created, then I will have an external ID field on the asset, which I think mentioned during the migration. So I will have that for all of the migrated ones. So the field will be there, and I'll use the external ID from the monitoring system for the asset.
how do you link the asset to the location then?
So the location is already in the monitoring system. So if when I'm sending the order here, when I'm sending the order to the ERP, next part of orchestration is to create account and location in the monitoring system using the ERP ID. So the location and the customer will be created in the monitoring system before the assets would be linked to it. That's how I then will get the identifier to where the asset should belong to.
Okay. As part of the migration, they said that the customer can exist in the different monitoring systems.
The asset can exist. Yes, that's right.
And the customer itself, right? Can
Probably,
you go?
yes, that it needs to be there. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you link the asset to the correct customer when you're migrating them?
Well, that's easy, right? So when I'm using the ERP IDs, so I'm assuming that in monitoring system I can add an external IT, and I will first create my new customer in the ERP, and then I will use the ERP ID as a unique identifier in Salesforce and also in the monitoring system.
But for the migration, for existing customers in the monitoring system.
Well, that's okay. Let's go to this slide. So I need to. So I have the devices between the systems. So I have, let's say I have 3 systems. I have one customer in all of them and unique assets in each of them. So what I need to do is I need to merge them and find those customers that are the same ones, create single one in Salesforce. And then what I'm going to do on the asset level, I'm going to have unique identifier of the asset and the unique identifier of the monitoring system. So
and how does the asset is linked to the customer?
Well, during the migration, I know to which customer it belongs because it's coming from the originating system.
Yeah, but
and then for the new customers, I have the ERP ID on the new field. So if you would then be happier, then during the migration, what I can do is that as I'm doing my due diligence, the duplication of the customers in between the monitoring systems, then at that point, I can link those customers to my ERP, and I can enrich the data with the ERP IT to each of those 3 monitoring systems to each customer, which would then leave me with the unique identifier across migrated data, which is the approach I'm going to use for any new customers.
Okay, thank you. We can come later. That's Let's move on. Then can you go to the maintenance, please? Schedule maintenance. How do you so they say the maintenance schedule is set by the specialist when the installation is complete and managed there by the support. How do you set this maintenance schedule in your system in Salesforce?
So I'm assuming that there are twice, the schedule. Right, so I didn't include a schedule, so I would create the work order to be for each of those. But yeah, there should be a schedule. So what I would do is I would just put the schedule on the location, right? So I would say maintenance, then I would have pick list how many times a year, and then what months. So I would have 3 pick lists. That should be enough. And then this would then be triggered. But then let me, because it's like when scheduled maintenance is a week away. Right, so I do that on my location because the maintenance is linked to the location, and then I would have a batch that would be running daily, that would create the work order of the maintenance type, and it would also be this type like 2 weeks before, and then the scheduled flow would kick in a week prior to the actual date.
Okay, so can you scroll down a little bit to the repair? I think monitoring an issue. There is one point. They set point D, 2D, that you have to create a maintenance task, right? So how do you do that for your repair or maintenance?
I'm considering this as not part of any ongoing maintenance. So this is where I would use the work order again, but the record type of ad hoc.
Okay. So let's assume that you have, for example, there is a problem in our sensors, bats, and there are 20 of them installed in one customer, and we need to send after the installation 3 months later our contractor to repair them. So they are out of the initial cycle of maintenance, so they need to be maintained 6 months later. But these 20, but the other 40 needs to follow the initial maintenance. How would you do that?
I would just sync the maintenances. So in this situation, I would just take the earliest maintenance that is scheduled out for any remaining items and schedule it for the new items as well. So I would not go there 4 times a year, but I still would go there 2 times a year to save my resources, with the first visit to be a little sooner than necessary.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the security 6 point.
Visibility.
Security and visibility, yes.
6.
Yeah. The customer see. How do you see locations below the account hierarchy? So you have an account hierarchy.
Yeah, so I link the primary contact with the hierarchy accounts through the ACR. And then on the location, I can use the ACR link for the sharing set. So I would say whenever my user account relation is equal to the account, and it will share the location.
Okay. Thank you. Then reporting. Point number 3. How do you run an ad hoc trending report in CRM analytics?
No, you don't. You need to prepare the data. I was a little under time pressure here. So what I'm proposing is that as we need to load the data from the monitoring system anyway, so we can crunch them in either in the data warehouse, which might not be the best option. So I would change that to via ETL job. So as I'm loading the new data, then I would add any time frame that is necessary for my summary operations and crunching operations, and then I would crunch the data in the ETL and load them to the specific data set that would be used for the trending reports.
Okay, thank you. Point number 5. How do you get the information from ESB, right?
Yeah, it's a job to be done in ESB, yes.
Okay. Is in your system landscape related? Okay, that's fine. I thought I didn't. It was cut. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. It needs to be there.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't see that.
Well, my landscape is quite missing today, so
All good.
sorry about that.
All good. You are using, how do you protect these external objects in your ERD?
I'm going to use restriction rules to protect them. So as they are linked to the account, so only the person with the access to the account will be able to see the external object data that are linked to that account.
Which OData version are you going to use?
I'm going to use 4.01.
Okay.
That's the one that I know you like. I still don't know if it's 4.01 or 4.1.
I have checked it. I have checked it today. You're gonna use restriction rules with that version. I have checked it. Yes.
Okay, with 4.01.
4.0, you need to use for restriction rules. Yeah.
But then if I'm using 4.0, I don't have the unlimited callouts.
Correct. There is
No. Are you kidding me?
I'm not.
I can't use restriction rules with the newest one that would allow me to.
You can check it later.
Really? That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
No way. Okay,
Yeah.
I trust you, but I just can't.
No, check it. Double check, and then you Slack me if I'm probably you find. I mean, the documents in Salesforce, they are you mentioned.
But this would kill. I already don't like the external objects, and this would kill it for me. I will never use it because either you have security, but you can't use it because you are out of limits very soon. Well, probably not for this use case, right? I should be fine with this use case, but that's bad. That's bad.
I mean, you can always make assumption is the 20K, I think, callouts per hour. I mean,
yeah, it's 20K. Not callouts, right? It's 20K report, 20K records per report, for example.
That's records is 100K. That's fine.
Okay.
Callouts is 20K.
Oh, that should be fine for this use case then. So I can open my account 20,000 times an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 10,000 because I have 2 of them, but yeah.
Yeah. You can open that.
Okay.
Per hour. So per hour. So.
Yeah, per hour.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I checked it. I was super surprised. Last question for myself in the environments. Where do you train the users?
In the UAT.
Okay. Can you justify why?
I know that going with a different environment would be probably safer in terms of not interfering with additional UAT items. But given the tight timelines, I don't think I would like to set up additional environment. Also, given the fact that there is only one environment from the other systems that I can connect to, the test one, there is only one, then I don't have the ability to have the UAT and training linked to the integration. And I really want to train my users in the end-to-end process, including the integrations.
Okay. Final question. How do you test the mobile publisher? It's a typical question.
Right. So there is a managed package that you can download to your org. Then when it's there, then you can select the experience cloud that you want to adapt, and then you are capable of seeing it there through the package. So you don't download it to your phone. Not everything is available in that preview, but for example, the branding is not there, but you can check if the functionalities are working, if the custom LWCs are working correctly in the mobile environment, and so on.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side. Yeah, I think two big the point number 4 of the project development, the sales management, I think.
Yeah, I should have gone with the big bang, I guess. But
I-
4 months, you will never deliver this in 4 months, right? In real life, never.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to translate it to the CTA. If I should honor this or try to negotiate, I don't know.
I mean, what I understood here is sales management. So I don't care about, or the other support or installations, whatever, they don't care. So probably it's like a business process phase release. So some kind of you release first sales,